Hey everybody, this is TJR. If this is your first time here, welcome. If not, welcome back. And the topic I want to discuss, I know, is about a month old. I am very much late to the party. I never commented on this story when it first hit, and that's because life just got in the way for me. It does that sometimes. In fact, so much so that I didn't even bother to pursue the headline. I saw the headline that Roger Waters was going to re-record Dark Side of the Moon and didn't bother to read any articles on it, didn't have time to, and didn't watch anybody's videos on the topic too, even though I saw plenty of thumbnails about it. I finally have looked into it. I have finally read about it. And also, recently this month, there was a very short sample of what this re-release, re-recording will sound like, offered up on YouTube. Very brief. Hopefully there will be more prior to the album's release. But because of that, I thought this might be a good time to bring it up now before it comes out. So before I get too in-depth here, I want to point out one thing. Roger Waters' politics are not part of this video and discussion. Because as near as I can tell, this recording project has nothing to do with any of that. Now, I have personally not ruled out the possibility that he very well might end up using this re-release as a platform for his current political beliefs. I don't think he's beyond that. But until I hear otherwise, I am just discussing the possibility of this release from a strictly musical perspective. So his politics are not part of this, and the same holds true for the various feuding comments that he has made against his former bandmates in Pink Floyd. Many of those comments that he has made, I disagree with. They are also not part of this video, so don't make it part of the comments unless you really feel it belongs. If you just need to rant about that, go rant somewhere else. Thank you. So let me first just quote a few things from the news article from the Telegraph. Roger Waters said he has been re-recording the 1973 album The Dark Side of the Moon because not enough people recognized what it's about and what I was saying then, according to the interview with the Telegraph. And the journalist, hopefully I say their name right, Tristram Fane Saunders. Saunders, who claims he is only one of a handful of people who have listened to the solo album from start to finish, described parts of the re-recording as very good. In particular, Saunders touts time as terrific with his old man's timbre. He's referring to how his voice sounds at this time. And described Money as a country-tinged cut reminiscent of the late Johnny Cash. That sounds at the very least interesting. Waters is said to play bass, is said to play a bass solo on Us and Them, okay, and reportedly adds his own vocals over the original album's instrumentals, including a prose poem over On the Run. So the first thing this brings to mind is, does this mean there will be lyrics during the Great Gig in the Sky? That's the first thing I thought of. I'll get back to the article here. Though originally slated for release in March, representatives confirmed that the album has been pushed back to May as Waters continues tinkering with the recordings. Now, as is typical for the internet, the initial reaction has been negative and that this is a terrible idea. And honestly, in the case of this particular album, I think there are a lot of good arguments that I could make as to why that is true and that would support that argument. But I think that a lot of the motivation behind a lot of the opposition to him doing this stems from longtime fans viewing the original as being somewhat sacred, and that no one, not even an original member of the band who helped craft it, should attempt doing this, and that in doing so, he will ruin the original. But the truth is that the only thing that Roger Waters is really capable of ruining is his own re-recording of this album. Regardless of what he does, the original album will be just fine. It will be available. We'll all be able to continue to listen to it, regardless of anything he does. Now, with all that said, I personally have no problem with any music artist revisiting and re-recording their previous catalog. That includes this album and any piece of music, just so long as there is a purpose behind what they are doing. And that purpose can vary. Taylor Swift has been re-recording all of her earlier albums for legal and business reasons, and her fans seem to overwhelmingly support her efforts. And even though I would not call myself a Swift fan, I completely understand the legal and business reasons that have made her do this, that are motivating her. And I support her in that as well. And I would have to say that if I was in her position, I would probably do the same thing. U2 is set to release a multi-disc set of reinterpretations of their past catalog. The announcement of this have some parts of the internet excited with anticipation, but other parts are decrying this and saying that the band is bereft of any real creativity. I personally don't see it that way, as they are also working on a new album of all original material at the same time. And also, given their ages, there is always the possibility that these two releases, the set of reinterpretations and the new album of all original material, could, for all we know, be the last thing they ever do. That's just speculation on my part, but it is a possibility. I have heard a good handful of advanced samples from this U2 project, and a lot of what I have heard sounds quite intriguing, to the point where I'm definitely going to listen to it when it releases, but I will reserve final judgment when I hear the finished product. And if I dismiss it, it will be after I have heard the whole thing and not prior. Now, as to Roger Waters' stated reason for why he is re-recording Dark Side of the Moon, because not enough people recognize what it's about, his motivation, can be 100% sincere in regards to this. But honestly, I don't see how re-recording it will really change how anyone who is a fan of the album perceives it. That is, of course, unless he intends to radically alter the lyrics and make them much more pointed, which if he does, in my opinion, I think he will ruin a lot of the album's lyrical poetry. You can make art, but at the end of the day, how the viewer interprets it becomes subjective, because we don't all interpret art in the same way. Also, there's been so much written about Dark Side of the Moon that a lot of the album's major themes are, in my estimation, what I would refer to as a collective shared interpretation. Something we collectively share, but wherein we can also fill in our own more personal details to that larger shared interpretation, which in effect gives each listener their own personal interpretation. Now, from this article in the Telegraph, we can certainly conclude that there will be some measure of musical reinterpretation. Again, I have no problem with that. I think that's one of the main reasons why an artist should revisit their material, is because they have what they feel is a cool reinterpretation of their song. And I've heard plenty of good examples of that. But even when the goal is to do a complete reimagining of a track and completely reinterpret it, even if that effort is sincere, I have heard also plenty of examples where that didn't work. Either way, even if Roger Waters releases a perfectly good, solid reinterpretation of the original album, I can't help but anticipate that no matter what, the reaction is going to be met with a great deal of negativity. And this is because 50 years of listening to the original has now been ingrained into our mental DNA. And for that reason, any musical variations will sound wrong to our ears, even if it's brilliant, which honestly I'm not counting on. And that's because, from my perspective, I don't see how you can improve on it, which shows that just like everybody else, I have a bias too. Now, in spite of this, I'm still going to do my very best to withhold that bias when I listen to it upon its release. I'm going to do my very best to listen to it with objective ears and not compare it to the original. But again, if you're being honest with yourself, what I just said is nearly impossible. But still, I will do my best, and I will comment on the album here after it releases. Oh, and as for that very short clip that's available on YouTube, it's not encouraging, but I will add it's also not finished. So again, I'm going to wait and see what we hear. Anyways, those are my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think I'm onto something here, or do you just think I'm on something? Either way, I want to know what you have to say. As always, if you like these videos, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon. As always, a very sincere thank you to my Patreon supporters. Patreon supporters receive exclusive weekly videos not available here on the channel. You can go to patreon.com/TJR the original if you'd like to have access to that. And if you can't, I understand. Just click like. You might also want to consider just doing a one-time super thanks. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.